to push here. There. All right. Welcome to this week's FHIR Analytics meeting. Let's take a look at the to-dos from last week. All right, action items for me. I'm still planning on working on the introduction and expanding it to the query resource. I still have some thoughts about scheduling design sessions. Tag issues and organize into milestones. I actually wanted to chat about this one. Let me fire up I'm on my laptop, obviously, but share. So what was our thought here? Tag issues organized into milestone, prep ballot, milestone organized for the next spec version. So I haven't looked at these that closely, but we've got about 11 issues standing. Clarify row index documentation. Okay, that was yours. So that would be like for this milestone, right?
Yep.
Maybe we'll just make a ballot milestone and like a post ballot milestone. Is that what you're thinking?
Even just a ballot milestone would be sufficient, I think, because the other is kind of implied.
Sure. Okay. I can go through these and classify them and have you guys just take a look and see if the classifications make sense. I think I've some of these. Okay. How about I do that? I just wanted some clarification on that. And then Nikolai, additional operations for analytic case, materialize, and continuous export.
Yeah, not
Yes.
yet.
Not yet.
I'm kind of close to that.
Good. Okay. John, IG Publisher, I know you're waiting on meeting Graham.
So just before we move off that previous one, sorry.
Yeah, this one.
So the additional operations, but the one that we still don't have in the spec is the SQL export one, right?
What do
so
you mean
we've
by
got
that?
SQL run. So
this isn't is this a continuous build?
No, this is not.
This one is the right one, right?
Yeah, so if you click on operations, so we've got SQL query run, but I feel like we also need SQL query export.
I think run is asynchronous and export is asynchronous. Yeah. So we can make SQL query export as a sync operation.
Yeah. I think maybe I'll add that as a ticket.
I still have a question about SQL query run. So there's a design decision about parameters, because the temptation to pass parameters by name or describe them as a key value.
This one here?
Yeah, because by default, yes, like to be generic, we have to say parameter name, parameter value. And when you will submit the query, you will provide parameters through this like key value array. Potentially, we may pass them as a parameters, which by themselves already like key value stuff. So it's very funny too. But it will not play very well with a FHIR type system. So there's a hack in the FHIR with I think they call it named queries. Have you seen it, guys? No. The named query. named queries and FHIR, they define it through the operation definition. And the operation definition, yeah, with the type of query, then allow you to use just normal parameters. I don't know. So maybe it's too complicated, but it's just an aesthetic point.
So you're wondering if this is the best or if it should actually be typed as parameters resource.
It's this
What?
right here. This
Yeah.
part here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is fine, actually.
So you think
what is
that's
that?
okay? Yeah.
Are there any other examples of things like this where we use parameter type resource inside another parameters?
Yeah. We may just use named parameters. That's another. I don't know how good it will play with the FHIR. Maybe not very well. But or we can define for each query run, we can use operation definition framework. I don't know.
Is the name the problem? Is it bugging you because it's called parameter?
Yeah, the thing I don't like, because it's the parameter resource already key value. Yeah, so you have a name and value. And now what you're doing with the parameters, you're putting key value into key values. Come on. So it's like double nesting. So you're saying like name, and name. So that
Yes.
looks for me just,
That's strange.
we can live with it, with that. Yes, I agree, but it's still very strange stuff, because the parameter by themselves is designed to easily these like key values, just give the name. Potentially, I don't know, we can say that you can use just names from your SQL query, unless they don't conflict with other parameters. This is not very.
We can't really write that into the operation definition or validate it or anything.
Yeah. So the FHIR probably encountered this problem with named queries, and Graham did a hack using operation definition type query to be able to use just normal parameters.
So are you talking about FHIR search?
Yeah. If you go to operation definition resource, there's something like kind or type of operation definition. So if you just type, you may search for query. No, it should be. Can you search for query?
Named query.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah, if you. Yeah, that's how the named queries are working. You're creating operation definition where you describe parameters, and then you can call it with the parameters, like with the normal parameters. Yeah.
Unnested parameters, basically.
Yeah. And if you're calling this through the get, you can just say the word equal something. Yeah. And that's kind of similar situation. They can do the similar solution, but the Graham did that. So my question, it's still okay to live with a like name and name value, but
we actually have we effectively would have one of these query.
yeah, but that's my question. So maybe we should. I remember that the Gina were considering operation definition, as a I think as a option versus library. And yeah, the operation definition is nice, and we kind of defining operation with this query run, yeah. But it's too generic. I don't know. So maybe too extra operation definition for every query, maybe too much. I don't know.
It feels maybe a little semantically mismatched. I'm not an expert at it.
Or maybe I'm not sure that it is possible to create value parameter. Let me check. Or we can define parameters as a nested parameters.
What does it say here?
I don't think it is because it's a resource type, right?
It's a resource.
It's not a data type.
It's not data type, yeah. I think so, yeah. So it couldn't be. Yeah, it is resource type, yeah, I agree. It doesn't work. But again,
so what's a parameter definition? This is something that SQL uses.
What do you mean? It's a resource type?
No, it's a metadata type within data types. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying for sure. I agree. But the way that it is now, it although it seems a bit weird, it's actually quite simple to use. I'm not sure if it would be that simple to use it if we had to have like an embedded sort of like, I don't know. Are you talking about? I guess, yeah. So what would be the benefit of putting it in there? Would it mean that tools would automatically use it or populate it or?
You mean why to do that instead of
the
value? It's just probably aesthetic stuff because for me, like key value inside key value, just hurting my
hurting your eyes. Yeah. The problem, and the other thing is you might not be a win here because in operation definition you have to add use, min, max. Yeah, you have to add more properties, right? Like it's not just key value when it comes, well, at least for operation definition, there might be some other hack, but it brings in some more.
I put parameter definition in the chat, Arjun. That might be helpful.
So many things in Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, doesn't like to do that. Nope.
Metadata types. Okay.
This is okay.
That's the basics.
Essentially, so SQL query is a library, yes, and the library has a parameter.
You're breaking up a little. Hold on.
Define it. And essentially what we're doing, yes.
Nikolai, do you want to cut your video? It might be me. Hold on.
No, I don't think it is.
I think it's Nikolai.
Okay.
I think he's frozen now.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Nikolai's an AI bot anyway, so now it's proven.
He's botified himself.
He's glitching.
My internet connection was broken. So sorry, guys.
No, no worries. Oh, I guess we already have use.
But we didn't invent this parameter thing, did we? That was something that was already on library.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm
It is here.
pretty sure. Yeah, it's there. Parameter definition.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah. It's hard for me to see how.
So we are using parameter definitions.
Yes,
Red.
seems like we should stick to it, right? Even if it's a little.
It has a name.
Well, actually, that's a good point because it's yeah. So we're defining the parameters in the library, but then the operation. Yeah. So we're not using a parameter to describe the instance of it.
You know what would be kind of an interesting thought experiment here is, so a lot of this stuff is from the SQL work, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Okay, so
yeah.
it would be interesting to see how the SQL how SQL is using this, because they also use library, right? And they pass in parameters. It might be interesting to see if we could take an assortment of those and just modify the parts that we're going to be using for query, see if they could essentially be we could provide almost a drop-in replacement for that piece.
Oh yeah, where's the operation that they use? So is it on measure? Evaluate measure, maybe?
Yeah, or
How do I
apply.
pass? Bingo, I found it. Okay. So they do use parameters. So I think Nikolai might be onto something actually. Maybe we should do this to be consistent.
What definition are you looking at?
If you have a look at that link that I just found.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. So that's we should align it with the SQL because we're going the way. If we use library, so then we probably have to do evaluate type and how they are passing parameters.
Yep.
With the parameters.
So it worked that way, yeah. So it's not data type, but it can be used. So okay, so then it's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, no, this makes a lot more sense now that I see it like that, because in the library, it's a parameter definition. In the operation, it's an instance of a parameter. You can link those things together and yeah. And you can type, I guess this means that you can type a parameter as parameters. So if we went into the operation definition of that evaluate measure, we would, I guess, see, if I went to
this maybe
an example, there's probably like an example in here.
Maybe. Where examples for SQL stuff?
Yeah, so you can say type parameters in the operation definitions, even though it's not a data type. Well, that's what they've done in this operation definition anyway.
Maybe we can ask the guys in Zulip.
Yeah.
If it's official hack, then let's use it. Yeah.
Official hack.
I think it's not a hack anymore. It's man, it's social reality. Okay, so
there is a lot of funny stuff in operation definition. You know that there is a magic name for parameter which, if it's called resource, then you can send the resource as a body. If you have only one incoming parameter in its name resource, then you can send not parameter resource, but the resource in the body of this request. Yeah, there's
I think that makes sense. Yeah. So how do we get onto this? This is a question about run. Yeah.
Right.
So I think we need a ticket to maybe change that, but we also need a ticket to add export.
Yeah, good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can assign me on this ticket about parameter.
Okay. So change the definition to use the parameters resource, and so that's ticket 1, and then ticket 2 is add SQL query dash export.
Yeah.
Right. As an asynchronous operation. Okay. So 2 tickets there. Good.
So, Nikolai, have you had a go at implementing SQL query run yet? Or Steve?
No, I haven't.
Not yet, but we have a plans. Yeah. I don't think it will be too hard, but yeah.
Same here. We'll probably get to it in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I was just planning out our implementation and just figuring out how we were going to do it. And yeah, the trickiest part is like the permission side of things, well, for us anyway, is just making sure that we have a safe read-only environment, sanitized environment that has the views available to it, and you can only run certain types of queries within that. So we've kind of got a whitelist of features of SQL that you can run in that sort of context, and all the rest of it is the way we're planning to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you want to like let the people just query specific views and like hide another views from them, or?
So they'll be able to query any view, but they won't be able to do any sort of write operations or any sort of operation that has side effects. So in Spark, there's lots of things you can do via SQL, and we only really want them to be able to do read operations, basically.
You're trying to prevent somebody from adding a FHIR query, or a query rather, a SQL query that has update statements, or delete statements even, right?
Yep, and in Spark, there's even more horrible things you can do. Like you can run arbitrary UDFs, and you can call Java methods through reflection and all sorts of things through SQL. So we're basically thinking of taking a whitelist approach to what you can do within that context, rather than try to figure out all the things you shouldn't do. Although the whitelist is still pretty complicated, but I think it's the safer way to do it.
In Postgres, there's a so-called read-only connections. So it's supported natively. So you can, maybe there's nothing like that in Spark. So in Postgres, you can open read-only connection, and it only can do read operations. So it never can create indexes or any like DDL, any inserts and deletes. Maybe there's something like that in Spark, no?
No, not really. And well, there's two types of quick like logical plans. So you can like everything that is a DDL or a DML, you can tell that it is that. But there's also things that are not DDL or DML that have potential side effects, like UDFs and reflection and that sort of stuff. So we have to do both, I think. We have to make sure that it's SQL rather than DDL or DML. And we also have to make sure that it's one of the and then I think we just walk through it and make sure that all the expressions are on the whitelist and that they're not using any UDFs that are not known to us. So we've got UDFs that we have within the solution. So it's like terminology UDFs, for example. So they will be in the whitelist. But if you just happen to have some other UDF on the class path, or you can even do funky things with Spark, like just define your own Python UDF and basically use it through that, like that would not be in the whitelist, so that would not be allowed. So I think it is a bit more complicated for us probably than with Postgres. But I think with that approach, that should be pretty safe. But we'll have to get Claude to red team it once we implement it.
Well, get Claude to implement it and then get Claude to red team it. But
yeah.
I mean, this sounds like a useful implementation note in the spec. I mean, it will obviously come up pretty quickly for implementers, but it'd be nice to have like a little box or paragraph that says like, warning, right? Up to you, but you should probably consider destructive write operations, DML, DDL.
Well, the other problem is that we haven't figured out yet is like how to enforce authorization. So, if you have like an authorization framework at the top of your server that says, you can only access these resource types or whatever, that really should be enforced in this operation as well, which could be challenging. So we'll have to think about that. I guess that would be a problem for you as well, right, Nikolai?
I don't know if he heard you.
Yeah, sorry. Can you say it again, John?
Well, how would you enforce authorization, like scopes and all the rest of it? So if the API user only has permission to look at particular resource types and all that sort of stuff, do you need do you have a way of enforcing that on an arbitrary SQL query?
Yeah, in 8box we did a trick, and that's probably very similar to what we're doing now. So we creating so-called query definition, which is essentially like operation definition. And then you can give permission on this operation. And that's how we turn SQL query into endpoint, and then we use our access policy languages to allow people to call this operation. So essentially, like you're making an operation, and this is a good point. So not having just generic operation, but maybe each query could be operation by themselves. But they still, in FHIR, there is no standard way to say that this operation is allowed. Yeah, so you have to turn it into some kind of scope or something like that. I don't know, the permission resource is coming, but I'm not sure that it can now describe that you can call this custom operation.
Well, depending on how granular your permissions are, even if it was only resource type, and obviously you can get even more granular than that, but you would have to go back to the view definitions, which the query looks at, and you would have to say, is that view definition based on this type of resource? And if so, do you have that permission to query that type of resource?
Yeah, that's good discussion. And in our team, I heard that guys a couple of times were discussing. I know that you reach out for the guys for the Smart on FHIR scopes and all this stuff. Yeah, that's a good discussion. And I think for like research platform stuff like that, like at least have some guidelines how the security can be made would be nice. Yeah, maybe we can say there is each view definition could be the scope, yeah. And then you can give like set of view definitions so that people can query. It's interesting talking about. We have to prepare for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
We happily right now, just in terms of where we are and what we're trying to do, we happily don't touch a lot of this role-based access. It's pretty much wide open. We're gonna have to get there eventually, but the security stuff always gets in the way of getting work done. So we don't quite support that yet.
Yeah, this might be an issue that folks bring up during the ballot process, I'm guessing, because we haven't really thought too much about security. Gino is definitely a person who drives a lot of that. Of course, he's very busy. Yeah, I think it's worth us thinking about it a little in advance for guidance, at least.
John Maevke is working on permission resource and the security labels. Security labels is a nice thing, but I'm not sure how we security labels.
But who is working on it?
John Maevke.
Ah, got it. Yeah,
it's a security group. So I'm not sure where is the permission resource, because we were discussing that what we did with our access policy resource, that's potentially what will happen with the permission resource in FHIR. So we may check where the permission resource, did they get to the point so they can list operations or like special parameters?
Where would we find that, Nikolai?
Do
you know where that's being published or being worked on?
Yeah, it should be in R6, I think. If we search for permission resource.
Yeah.
It's hard though, because a lot of times it's user-based too, right? Like if a patient can only access their own data, or a doctor can only access patients that they're treating and things like that, then a lot of those decisions are hard to make generic. And even like Smart on FHIR, like no identity servers support it. So it's like you have to do it yourself, basically, even to the identity server level. Like you have to go hack Keycloak or something to make it Smart on FHIR compatible.
It's a very tricky area, and if you do it wrong, there's some big implications.
Yeah, it's not fun. I've had to do it for the payer interoperability use cases, trying to get it all to work, and it's a pain.
Yeah, so this is R5.
And we may ask from other point of view, we can talk to Josh Mandel about scopes, because so I know that Smart 2.0, they extended scopes with the parameters. So they introduced scopes language, and yeah, that's another option.
I mean, from the other side, a lot of the use might be that you're creating a view that does limit to somebody's permission, right? So you're redacting, masking, date shifting, date truncating, whatever it is. And you want all those operations available in the view definition, so your output is de-identified for somebody to use.
Nikolai, I reviewed one of your Teams presentations in the last month or so on exactly this topic. So in your implementation, you guys are using the meta.security that was just viewed there, right? The security tagging.
This thing actually,
it's security labels. Yeah.
Yeah. So you put whatever labels you want on the data, and then your server side, you enforce those labels, right?
Yeah, that's very nice hack for platform. Yes. The idea that there's a labeling service which are touching, and it's usually outside.
This seems to be orthogonal to that completely. So you can use that. This is something completely different. This consent stuff. It says right here.
Yeah, it's for more complicated cases. Yeah, it's essentially for attribute-based access control or for like resource level access control. It solves like sophisticated stuff like VIP person or hiding fields. It's very advanced, but it's turned into simple query a parameter finally. So, and for example, you can mix Smart on FHIR scopes with the security labels and get very expressive language for the security.
Yeah, the test for all this is always, you want to hide somebody's depression diagnosis, yet there's medications that they're taking that indicate that they're treating depression. The security label approach nicely pushes all that complexity onto the client. The client has to label things properly for that to work. How does this work? Because there has to be a whole rules engine underneath for that complexity to be somewhere else.
Yeah, that's someone else should solve it. I know Mohammed is like wipe coded some labeling service. So that's like future software, the labeling service, and some rule systems which can do. So we decided not yet implement it because people should do it on the client side. Yeah, they should. But what's nice, it's not bounded to resource type. So if you decided this resource and this are related to drug abuse or something or mental health, it doesn't matter what resource type. Yeah, and you may say like, and you can build consent, hide all my mental health information. And I like this extra layer of indirection. Yeah, so you can create solve quite complicated use cases with these security labels. But that's kind of next level. Yeah, so I think for our case, maybe we can introduce the like scopes based on view definitions. That sounds reasonable. I don't know. We have to take a look how the scopes defined on Smart on FHIR, and then we can give the user a set of view definitions, access to the view definitions. And then maybe it could be sophisticated by we can allow to make query to only accessible view definitions, yeah. And then fail if user is trying to use view definition which is not in the scope.
But if like you say, if you have a patient scope, like patient one or something, and you have permission to the view definition, you want to run SQL query run, but you only want to return the rows that are related to patient one.
Yeah.
So you have to like combine these things together, right?
Maybe we can like put it together with the resource type scopes, because if the user has the resource type scope, it essentially inheriting all view definitions of this resource type. Yeah. So because it has a full access to the original type, that means that all view definitions which are derivatives of this resource type accessible for the patient. But we can narrow and say only these views are, for example, with redacted names or something like that, they identified patient views accessible for the patients or for the user. It's more sophisticated, I don't know. So we have to look, can we extend Smart on FHIR that way?
Yeah, I think there's the next to do. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, maybe that's just kind of guidance of how to interpret Smart on FHIR in the context of SQL on FHIR, and that maybe that's just guidance that kind of lives in SQL on FHIR, how to map those concepts onto. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Arjun.
No, I think that's a good point. Basically, I'm saying what are the next steps and how might we materialize this conversation? So I think research, right, into SQL on FHIR scopes and how they might apply. And then I think there's kind of a level of difficulty here, right? Maybe we can map out what that level of difficulty might be for an implementer, starting with resource type scopes, in air quotes, resource types constraints, let's say, and then moving on to potentially more granular scopes. So, and that could be guidance. I'm trying to think. We'd have to kind of see, I think, the whole picture and then decide what we would want to include into the specification that's not guidance.
It could be a recommendation. Yeah, just recommendation. And I think for view definition, so in Smart on FHIR, you have these prefixes like user, patient, and maybe we can make our prefix like views or something like that. And then views, and then name of the view. But in our case, view is a URL. Yeah, so it's not a name. Yeah, but we can try to play with that. So maybe introduce our prefix and then create our namespace for the scopes. So for views, and then.
I actually think that the main thing that's missing from Smart App Launch for this use case is like group / because in bulk export we have like group scoped bulk export, and in research this is like a thing because you have sort of groups of patients that have consented or whatever it is, but there's actually no group / scope in Smart at Launch. So I'm kind of just thinking ahead to like this patient cohort app that I have in my head, which kind of brings this all together, and you have to launch it with a set of scopes, and you want to do feasibility, you want to assemble view definitions, you want to run SQL over them, and you want to have all those permissions applied over the whole lot. That's actually the gap I can see, because I can imagine that you could, like you say, Nikolai, map the concepts onto SQL on FHIR. Like you could say, if you have this particular type of resource permission for this particular type of patient and you're executing a view definition that's based on that resource type, well, that's okay. But yeah, I think there is a gap there. Like, and groups is one of the gaps, I think.
Yeah, we may ask some questions to Josh.
Or Dan, maybe.
Yeah.
That's a good call out, John. Groups can be problematic because if your cohort's large enough, your group resource grows too large to be usable. But I've run into that. But the concept is the same. Yeah, you want to limit it to a certain cohort of patients that you've given someone permission to. So that makes sense.
In bulk, the group's capability has been heavily influenced by Epic's implementation, because you have to use a group to get any data out of Epic.
To attack it from the other side, are there functions that allow you to de-identify? I guess you could just use raw FHIR for that, but
that's like a whole nother thing. I think I'm not aware of anything in FHIR that helps you with that. I think you can. There's lots of ways to do that, and simplified ways, like HIPAA type ways, but none of them are kind of bulletproof. And, like Steve, you were saying, there's actually, it's actually a really hard problem.
Yeah.
It's even more complicated than that, because that isn't a depression medication. It's just a medication that one of the uses is potentially depression, but there's also other things, other indicated ways of using it. So like, it's pretty hard to do that stuff. But just looking at groups, like, I was just wondering, can you have 1 million members in a group? Probably not. But you can, there's like this characteristic thing, like traits to include people. And I wonder if people have implemented like criteria-based groups and all that sort of stuff. Certainly we haven't, but we've implemented like group membership for the purpose of bulk export, but we haven't implemented like matching patients based on some sort of criteria, which is, like, as you say, Craig, probably what you would need to truly scale it.
Yeah, we had a cohort builder that would do that. You could build up a cohort with criteria, but the end result was, just a list of patients that you generally then want to export into some user analytics space to, hand off to somebody to go do, deeper research once you've identified the group you're interested in. But yeah, your idea of just having the criteria itself as the group is good. If you can figure out a way to represent that generically, I guess.
Arjun, going back one topic back to permission, the permission resource.
Uh-huh.
It appears to be gone from the latest build. It was.
Yeah, I didn't. I had to go back to R5 to see it, so I really don't know what the status is.
Yeah, I think it may have been an idea. It was maturity level 0 in R5, and then it's gone in R6.
Yeah, they will probably go to additional resources, maybe. So to some incubation. So the now guys are moving a lot of stuff to incubators. Tomorrow, yesterday we discussed it, like moving FHIR mapping language into incubator from core. Discussed half hour with the Graham.
How'd that conversation go? Because is he the only implementer of the FHIR mapping language?
There was a long discussion that nobody adopted it, and then I asked it, and a lot of people like pushing Graham to move it out of core spec. So, but looks it's a trend now. So everything which is not very mature now are like pushed into incubation. Like there's Josh is driving a lot of this API incubator. So sync patterns going there and some other operations. Yeah. And I think this is good, so that they will reduce the core. And because the main reason that the guys promise they will not break things after that. So they're saying that the R6 is the last version. And I hope they will do that.
Yeah, no, I remember you driving some of that conversation as well, Nikolai, and I think that's a healthy approach.
Because there's a lot of trade-offs, and but for now I think it's time to be serious about compatibility.
Okay, so just to wrap up that conversation, so I think some research into use of scopes, smart on FHIR scopes. Do you want to pick that up, Nikolai? John?
Yeah, I can have a look at that. I think Nikolai's got quite a few.
He's got a lot. You got our AI call too. It's very exciting. Yeah, so if you could pick that up, maybe see what the current status of some of these security resources are as well, sort of where they're landing. But at least that's a starting point. I think we likely will need, kind of a close-in review from some of the security experts. So let's consider who that might be. probably not Gino. So at least that's a starting point for us. Okay, so just to close off the to-dos, clarify row index documentation. I think that's all done, right? Correct?
Yeah, so there's a number of pull requests waiting there. I did try and clarify that documentation.
Open spec. Okay.
That one is not done because we've got a blocker on that one. But other than that, and the boundary one. So there's 3 there that I think
these 3.
317, 316, and 312 that could get merged.
Okay. All right. So team, take a look at those 3. What? Yeah, in a minute. Here. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Yep. All right. So let's review those 3 shortly. Test cases for row index. Do these PRs have test cases at all? And we talked about that. John?
Yeah, there are some more test cases in there. Yep.
Okay, cool. So that checks that one off. Jim Taylor. I followed up with Jim, and he's followed up with Brian from Highmark from last week. So we'll see if we can schedule another call with Brian and his team. And then this was actually sort of marked with me too. I did figure out the right place to put the notes for our May track. So that should be in process there. The next event there it's in April, I think. Let's see here. Oh, sorry. No. So probably one of the track leads should be on this call. Adam is also going to support this, and I can ask Adam if he can be on the call next Tuesday. And then there's some touch points. And then I scheduled the track kickoff call tentatively. Obviously, it's up to you guys since I won't be there. It's empty. Confluence. It was early April. Just put it that way. So that stuff should be in process.
So do we just schedule that ourselves and just run it ourselves, or do we have to do it through HL7?
I think you just do it yourself. We just do it ourselves. Damn it. I swear to God, I wrote all this stuff in the form.
Just advertise it somewhere.
I think that's pretty much how it works. I mean, we can change the date, of course, but I think I scheduled it for like early April.
Okay.
All of the information is actually I just copied from this document here.
So before then, we'll want to have an idea of what we're doing in the track and what we're asking people to come along with, and what sort of preparation and all that sort of thing.
Right. So yeah, these testing scenarios and preparation, stuff like that, we can refine that. But we're talking first 2 weeks of April. It's probably suitable for that. But it is, I think, variously important to get someone on that first kickoff call, at least this track lead kickoff call, where they go over all the requirements and things like that. How about this? How about I ping Adam and let him know that he's going to be our representative on next Tuesday and see if he'll be able to attend? Does that work? Cool. I'll let him know. And I mean, if he says he has a conflict or something, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah,
cool.
I think that's about 2 o'clock in the morning for me. So.
John. John is available any time of day or night, as we know.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of these for Australian Connectathons. Yeah, I think I think we should figure out like what we actually want to do and like what our scenarios are going to be and all the rest. But something that's also like served me pretty well is just like direct reach out. Like, who are the key people we'd actually like to come along, and within each of our networks, like just send them an email and say, hey, would you be interested in coming along? You know, we know you've got an implementation or whatever, and this is what we're doing, and just kind of seeing if we can tee like a good group of people ahead of time to make it all a success. But obviously we don't have to do that quite yet, but I'm just kind of thinking ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can work on that collaboratively. Also, figure out who will be there in Amsterdam to reach out to.
It's Rotterdam.
Rotterdam.
That's right. Rotterdam.
Make sure you go to the right
I'm not planning on not going in either. So, well, maybe a little change. I don't know. Unlikely, but okay. I'll let Adam know that he'll be our representative, and then we'll coordinate after that on a plan.
I better go and help with the morning routine.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Yeah, if nothing else. All right, we'll see you guys. Oh, and come to the AI meeting, John and Steve and Craig.
It sounds like I'll have to.
Is it every week, Arjun?
Yeah, we're planning on every week.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Discussing there will be probably like bigger meetup, maybe quarterly or monthly, and weekly meetings. Yeah.
Nobody has signed up to my sheet. Nobody wants to do any organization. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's push the people into let's create the channel in Zulip. And
yeah, let me stop. Hold on. All right, all done for today.